It's always awkward that first couple seconds when you go live because you don't know if you should talk or wait for everybody to join or here we go. And Jim, I got to throw props. Your design is making me to have to up my game over here. I've got a messy thing in the background. I think that the lesson here is, one, do it regardless. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Get video out there and get content out there if you're an agent, and work on it over time, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell anybody in this Rockwall office, you need to come upstairs, see this room. It's for anybody to use. We're putting together a little tutorial how to use it. It's really a nice plug and play system. There's different ways you can film in here, but I think it's something you can be really proud of, and going into this next year, add a little bit different dynamic to your business plan.
Perfect. All right. So, man, we got some good news today, I think. Contrary to a lot of negative news we've probably been talking about over the last couple of weeks, I think there's some uncertainty, and people are reading in the news that the world's falling apart and all that stuff. But today, I think there's some a bright light in the middle of all that, and it's called Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, right? And we're going to pull that up. But before we do, I like to always just kind of kick off. I need permission to share. And once I get that permission to share, we're going to pop up these numbers. But it's always awkward when you can't share your screen. Steven, you mind giving me permission to share? All right. Well, here's what I'm going to say. There, now I can share. All right. So I found this interesting, and I wanted to start with this real quick. So, inside of Matrix, you can click on these stats and kind of pull some stuff. And I pulled just quickly original price versus versus sold price, right? Mm-hmm. And you can see, going back into November 2021, the original price was $349 and it was selling at $370. And this is Rockwall County, by the way. Well, $334 in December, when it's going for $370. And then May this year, original price was $450, sold for $399. And then we started coming back down again, right? Like, so August, $415, sold for $430. 402 is $392. 392 is $390. What do you make of that?
I really think it was the market started shifting. Right. I mean, it started shifting during the summertime. You can see it in every single county, and you're starting to see that sales price kind of shrink in to be kind of even with the close price. We as professionals have caught up with it, but also you can look at the days on the market, and the days on the market between what's pending to active are starting to shrink in. And I think it's encouraging. I think it's something to definitely watch, because when you start seeing gaps happen, that's when you're going to start seeing the sales price gap happen. But yeah, it's just all of a part of a shifting market, but we're getting back to normal. I think a normal market, right? Yeah. We're all catching up to it.
Well, what's normal? Because like, I remember when I was a newer agent, I kind of in my head had this crazy number that said, okay, most houses sell for about 95% of what they're listed for. Yeah. So if a house was listed for $500,000, I was expecting to get it under contract for about $475. I'm looking at this now. I don't think we're 5% off list price yet, but it may be 2.5 or something like that. Like, what if you're coaching me? I'm an agent. Remember, I'm counseling people what to offer on these houses. Yeah. What are you counseling me to look at? What are you counseling me to do?
Well, I think we're doing a real buyer's presentation with somebody. We have to go through and pull a good CMA.
By the way, Jim, don't you love that I put you on the spot with no heads up?
No, I absolutely love it. No, I think you absolutely have to go through, if we just walk through the process of a buyer's presentation, you need to give them the most accurate information that you can, right? Um, and really, I think this goes back to when we were looking at homes back in 2010, 2012. Everybody was looking for a deal. I think the consumer started catching on in the last few months of, I can find a deal out there, like it's slowing down. But what we need to do is kind of the same thing that we were showing clients back in the pandemic era of, no, this is how much above we're going on sales price, right? There are multiple people looking out there right now. Like we have a healthy amount of buyers for the fall, I would say. And so if this is the house for you, you need to make the most educated offer you can right now. And so it is always their decision, but you need to give them all the facts that are out there, right? If you have something that's sitting out there for over the average days on the market, you can have a different conversation. If it's something that's brand new, more than likely you may be going up against somebody else. So let's go in with our best offer.
Absolutely. So anyway, I just encourage people to come in here and play with stats because one, this gives you talking points in conversations that takes it to logic instead of emotion. Hey, here's what the market is telling us. Here's what the numbers are saying. Now let's navigate. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was good. All right, Rockwall County, Jim, you ready? Happy Halloween, 133 active listings. How do we feel about that?
Weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Came down.
Yeah, this is kind of what if you look at going back to looking at the numbers in Netris, if you kind of go back and look at homes that are available during any given timeline, inventory, it's we should start seeing kind of a rise, right? And now we're starting to see it shrink. It's such a weird market. Gary said it a few months ago. He's never seen a market like this. As soon as you start thinking that, we're all right, inventory is going way up, all of a sudden we have this inventory come way down. We've got a lot of people out there looking too, but it kind of goes back to how you led this call off of welcome to the Metroplex. Things aren't as bad as they seem.
Yeah. And we're going to jump into that.
Yeah.
The question is, so you've got 53 listing disparity between last week versus this week. Where'd they go? Well, 46 of them sold, 6 of them expired. A good number went under contract. What that tells me, we didn't list any new listings in the last 7 days. Like nothing new came on the market, which could be an issue. Yet I think people are nervous about not understanding the opportunity of now. Like maybe I need to wait until the spring market to sell my house because nobody can afford my house today because the interest rates are too high, blah, 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 right? Like whatever script or dialogue people are bringing to the table may be causing them to stall on listing their house right now. And if that's the case, what's the advice?
Again, bringing them back to logic of, all right, what, I do have my thoughts here. What is your overall plan? Right? Is your plan to sell no matter what? Is your plan to go ahead and sell come the spring? Do you have to be somewhere? I think this is like most markets taking advantage of the now. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Tomorrow's uncertainty is completely uncertain. We have a good probability of what's happening right now, right? So I can't tell you if prices are actually going to drop in the spring, if they're going to rise in the spring. But if we look at what all economists are saying right now, and we have a plethora of articles that we've kind of gone through about what economists think, and they're saying from about this time this year to next year, we're going to lose about 5.5%. And I think we're actually going to gain a little bit coming through the summertime, which means we're probably going to lose quite a bit going through the first quarter, the second quarter.
The cold months, right?
Yeah. And so are you willing to lose, let's say, that 5% by waiting until May or June? Now, if that's your position, then all right, let's roll the dice. Again, it has to be their decision, but you present them with all the facts as we know it.
Yeah. And, I was having a conversation with somebody last week that's on our ALC, and specifically they had a $400,000 listing that got nervous. And I said, what's the cost of waiting? If the price goes backwards 5%, that's $20,000 decision around taking your house off the market today. Are you willing to be a little uncomfortable and hang in there for $20,000? Oh, you mean 20 grand? Yes, it could cost you 20 grand. Here's an article that says prices might go backwards 5.5% next year. It would make sense to list now, right?
Yeah.
Be on the front end of that.
Yeah. And being able to go back to these articles is real important because that's education versus sales.
Yeah. So Dallas County, 1,028, not as drastic. Of course, 306 active option, still healthy, right? Pending 388, that's really good. 342 sold, not so great. My guess is we might see a bump next week because of today being the last day of the month.
Yeah.
I expected that number to come in a little higher in Dallas County than it did. Worthy of a mention. Collin County, 775, a little bit off on the inventory, same conversation. A healthy active option, 249 on the pending is a really good pending number. 239 on the closings, not as great as they were a couple of months ago, but it's holding. It is off, but not falling off a cliff like people might think that we would say. Henderson, 72 active, a little bit off, but they tend to bounce around a little more. Active options 6. 17 pending, which is pretty consistent, and then 21 closings. Best kind of closing week we've had in a while. So with the exception of 25 2 weeks ago, not too shabby. What do you make of the numbers?
Yeah, I think some of what you're kind of talking about is just the seasonality of real estate, right? We expect a drop to come in this October month, and when we're looking back at September and August, finishing up those months. But I think one thing we talked about last week was, politics, elections, whatever you want to say, going through the year, especially approaching election time. I think you've got a lot of people that are kind of holding their breath, waiting and seeing. Not that it necessarily will matter one way or the other, but people just want to kind of see what's going to happen, if there's going to be something that shakes out in the stock market. I think there's just a little bit of hesitancy because of that, then coupled with what's going on with the Fed and interest rates right now.
Yeah. The only thing that drives me a little crazy about politics is they use a lot of negative marketing and fear-based marketing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lend itself to great consumer confidence in the real estate industry when every article or news media or television is talking it creates a negative atmosphere, which I think trickles into our industry a little bit. Now, the good news is we know in political seasons that most people are motivated to keep the economy strong, although there are forces that sometimes overstep that. But outside of that, it's just weird, Jim. It's weird right now. That's a good way to put it. All right. This is my favorite one for today. More than half the buyers would purchase a haunted home in a competitive market. What on earth? I would never buy a haunted house. And I realize it's Halloween, But if somebody told me there was an inkling of somebody dying, I probably am not your buyer. But what do you think about that?
No, I'm absolutely scared of ghosts. I am one of these crazy people that I believe I've seen a ghost before. But no, absolutely. Like there would be a cartoon shape cut out of Jimmy like running through a wall. I'm out.
All right.
Wouldn't
So
would
we're
not
the
do
other
it.
half. We wouldn't, but apparently they would. Anyway, I just thought it was fun for Halloween today. All right. This, I think, is the biggest story of today. Dallas Business Journal ranked 30 housing markets where values are cooling the fastest or even declining. So if I click on it, and we start going through it, number 30 is Las Vegas, Milwaukee, Boston, St. Louis, Baltimore, Madison, Provo, Worcester, Detroit, Riverside, California, DC Metro, Phoenix, Colorado Springs, Stockton, Spokane, Denver. I'm going to start skipping a little. LA,
Yeah.
Portland,
It's a lot of the usual
Pittsburgh,
suspects in there.
yeah, San Francisco. Number 3, Austin, Texas.
Mhm.
Number 2, San Jose. And number 1, Boise, Idaho. What did you not see in the list, Jim Duquette?
No Dallas, no Fort Worth.
Nope. So what do we make of that? How do I get out of here?
No, I think you look at again what we've been talking about the last several months, several months is we have a lot of industry that's coming into the area. And if you look at that art, I think it was in that article, maybe another one, it started talking about some of the emerging markets that are coming up, and one of them being data centers. And there are a lot of data centers coming into the Metroplex. But I think we're becoming pretty well insulated with our diversifying infrastructure between our logistics, our warehouses. You've got 35-30 running through the Metroplex, and you've got a lot of hubs that you can ship from. So I think there's a lot of growth still to happen. We have a lot of land to build on, so there's more to come.
I think it's really strong for our metro area. You sent me this article that said Dallas Fort Worth is expected to be one of the nation's top real estate markets in 2023. That's next year. Nashville and DFW rank as number 1 and number 2 markets in the U.S. for real estate investment and development in a closely watched annual report.
Yeah, we saw this in the Great Recession. Of Raleigh and DFW were 2 of the leading markets. And I think it just goes back to what I was just talking about. We just saw a big price increase happen in DFW. I think it was kind of the first one. It may have been, really the second one, but that's just kind of the first wave, though. There are more increases to come, and I think we are going to thrive in the future. There's going to be some bumps along the way, but we have a lot of room to grow still.
100%. So it's really strong. I think it's good news for us. Once again, I'd be saving these articles and putting them in front of people if they get nervous. If they're saying, oh, I don't know if I should buy a house next year, or I don't know if I should sell my house. I'm going to say, listen, you're reading these things in the national market, but here's what the local market is saying. And this should alleviate some fear, because honestly, us helping people navigate emotional fear is going to be the biggest success factor going forward in the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about, how politics kind of send some negative waves through our industry. Well, with the election going on, I think a lot of people see this national news about the housing market, and they just boil that down to being our local market. But and even with Austin being on that last list, you're going to have to really pay attention to even some Texas publications and see what area are we really talking about? Is it Houston, San Antonio, DFW, Austin? Because it's going to matter a lot.
There you go. All right. Zillow lays off 300 workers as portal pivots from iBuying to super app. Um, we have a love-hate relationship with Zillow, and I understand that. And iBuying is an interesting thing because it's really hard to make profit in iBuying, especially when the markets are competitive.
Yeah.
When the market turns, you could see a lot of iBuyers coming back into the space because they can make their margins on buying and holding. But what do I think about Zillow and them turning into a super app? Or what do you think about it?
You know, I looked at it as kind of an empowering thing. One, this is just kind of turning into, all right, what's Zillow trying now? I mean, if you're really paying attention what happens with Zillow, but you're seeing a lot of these other disruptors in our market have these type of layoffs. They said in there, you know, last year that they laid off 2,000 employees from their iBuyer program. They did this mainly from their offers and their mortgage. You had Redfin do the same thing last month, I think it was. But what I saw in here was they made a note about the partnership that Open Door started with Zillow. And so what I looked at that and said, here's the cool thing about Keller Williams is that me, you, everyone in this company, we can leverage the exact same thing. We have all these tools in our back pocket and we don't have to throw out millions of dollars to do it because Gary and all our fine leadership has provided that to us with Keller offers and Keller mortgage and Keller covered. We have the same leverage we can throw out at the consumer. We just have to be savvy about it, remember it. And I think it's a good idea about once a week, just kind of check the sites, see what they're doing. Not much really changes, but it keeps it top of mind, and especially when you're making calls to clients.
There you go. All right. Going back to basics. This was our ALC clinic theme last week. And here's what top agents are doing to finish the year strong. I don't know why I'm not logged in. I apparently need to log in, but do you remember what the things were?
Yes. The biggest thing they had a lot of things that were reoccurring. Number one was show up, right? Show up in the office, show up to work. It's hard to make anything happen if you're not doing that. There was an article out a month or so ago that was talking about they have a new national study about people working from home. And it, no surprise to me, it doesn't work well. So don't think that you're the outlier. Get into the office and work. Keeping the mindset. They said mindsets are real critical right now. If you don't believe that it's a smart time to buy or sell, your client won't believe you, right? We have a lot of data that suggests that it's a good time to buy or sell right now. And especially if they're worried about the mortgage part. I've said there are mortgage companies out there that will refi you later for free. Be aware of what the market is. Don't let it steal your focus or your drive. And it said take action every day to move forward. I thought that was huge, to move forward. You know, we should all, sometimes our wheels can be turning, but we're not going anywhere. We're just kind of peeling out. So make sure that our progress is moving forward, that the wheels aren't moving backwards or we're just in the mud spinning around. Sometimes we can confuse those things and it feels the same, but it's got to be real with yourself. It's not.
Yep. So it basically have more conversations, have better conversations, follow the plan. Mindset is critical. Stop listening to the noise. We talk about that a lot, right? Yeah. Consistency is key. And focus daily on adding to the pipeline, culture, direction, and focus. I mean, these are all such great advice, but nothing crazy. Like it's the basics, right?
It's simple. It's what's worked forever. Had a buddy of mine that one time told me, hey, if you ever want to win, you win in the grassroots. And that's exactly what this is.
Yep. Messaging is everything. Somebody once said, You don't change how you do business in different economic markets. You change your messaging. And I think that's a really strong statement. In you still make phone calls, you still are in relationship, you still market. It's the message that changes. So in a competitive market, we had one message. In a buyer's market or a less competitive market, we may have a different message, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think our message needs to match what's going out in our auto texts and emails, and be real strategic about it. Have an actual conversation with the client. Don't be so worried what's written down on paper.
There you go. This one talks about speed to lead, right? You have seconds to win, prospects over. Here's what to say. It's all about scripts and speed to lead. This article I find is funny because it's talking about practice as a lifesaver, but down here it talks about the 5 truths about scripting. There are no one size fits all script. Everyone uses scripts. The better rehearsed a script is, the higher the chances of success. Scripts need to be tailored to fit the situation and demographic you are targeting. Pretty powerful, right?
Yeah.
Where's number 5? I think that's what's funny. 5 truths. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway,
the biggest thing in that is practice.
Yes.
Whenever I used to tell coach kids, they would tell me, "Hey, I want to do this in a game." I tell them, "Show me in practice." Right? The first time you do something, it shouldn't be in the game.
Never. And there's a love-hate relationship with scripts.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like me. I don't want to do that. I want to do it my way. And I always explain to people, like, if you've ever picked up tennis or golf or any kind of sport, and you start to swing the golf club or you start to swing the tennis racket, or better yet, if you tried to write your name with your non-dominant hand, it feels really awkward. And that's what a script feels like, until you do it over and over and over again, repetitively in practice, to where it doesn't feel so awkward. And whether I was swinging a baseball bat in the wrong direction, or a golf club, a tennis racket, or writing my name with my left hand because I'm right-handed, it takes time and practice to make it feel natural. And that's what scripts are.
Yeah. And I tell you, sometimes we get a little too carried away about what we're saying early on. And, you're buying for 10 seconds at a time. So you need a good opener. So if you waste too much time telling it about yourself, you're wasting precious real estate. And like the old boxing coach told me one time back in high school, is get to the hook fast, right? Get to the meat of what you're trying to say a little faster.
There you go. Jim, we lost your video, but I'm sure you look great. So anyway, what's our summary of today? One is, yes, we're seeing numbers slow down a little bit. It's a big debate if it's seasonal or economic or whatever, but it doesn't matter. They have slowed down. And 2, everything we're reading says prices are probably going to go backwards in 23. 3, to the tune of 5%. And 3, the silver lining in all this is the experts are saying Dallas is poised to be one of the top real estate markets in the
tomorrow, 3 months from now. Now is always the time to be talking about it and looking at, really and truly, if you're going to do it now while you know what's happening.
There you go. Happy Monday. Happy Halloween. Be safe.
Happy Halloween.
And talk to you guys. Don't eat too much candy. Bye.
Bye.